Welcome, everyone, to Buddha Center. It's so wonderful to see all of you tonight. Once again, we're looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's Foundation of All Good Qualities, Source of All My Good, as it's entitled in the translation that we use, begging for a mountain of blessings. And I really feel so fortunate to be able to discuss this with you tonight, and fortunate that Khyentse Geshe Wandak Rinpoche discussed it with many of us and discussed it with myself so many times, and really for so many years dealt with the content that's contained within this very, very short, beautiful poem with only 14 stanzas that contains everything that the Buddha taught in terms of what we need to do at all of the stages of spiritual development in order to eventually become Buddhas. So before we go any further, let's start by setting a proper motivation. And the proper motivation will be kind of led into today by reading some of the stanzas from Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, a text that right when Rinpoche got here, he began teaching, and a few different people transcribed those teachings, and we actually have them up there on the shelf. You can't see it, those transcriptions, and they're just so wonderful. And Rinpoche spent so much time to take the care to make sure that we understood these individual stanzas, and then extended on that explanation for the next 20 years or so. I would guess, if I'm thinking about when the date of that first teaching on Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment was. So we'll begin with that, just a short recitation of that, not the whole thing, just the first few stanzas. And then from there, we'll go do other stuff. So thank you so much. Okay. So this is the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment by Atisha Dipamakara Shriyana. Homage to the Bodhisattva, the youthful Manjushri. I pay homage with great respect to the conquerors of the three times, to their teaching, and to those who aspire to virtue. Urged by the good disciple Shanchu Huo, I shall illuminate the lamp for the path to enlightenment. Understand there are three kinds of persons. Because of their small, middling, and supreme capacities, I shall write clearly, distinguishing their individual characteristics. Know that those who, by whatever means, seek for themselves no more than the pleasures of cyclic existence are persons of least capacity. Those who seek peace for themselves alone, turning away from worldly pleasures and avoiding destructive actions, are said to be of middling capacity. Those who, through their personal suffering, truly want to end completely all the suffering of others are persons of supreme capacity. For those excellent living beings who desire supreme enlightenment, I shall explain the perfect methods taught by the spiritual teachers. Facing paintings, statues, and so forth of the completely enlightened one, reliquaries, and the excellent teaching, offer flowers, incense, and whatever you have, with the 7-part offering from the prayer of noble conduct, with the thought never to turn back till you gain ultimate enlightenment. And with strong faith in the 3 jewels, kneeling with one knee on the ground and your hands pressed together, first of all, take refuge 3 times. Next, beginning with an attitude of love for all living creatures, consider beings, excluding none, suffering in the 3 bad rebirths, suffering birth, death, and so forth. Then, since you want to free these beings from the suffering of pain, from suffering, and the cause of suffering, arouse immutably the resolve to attain enlightenment. So as our motivation, we should have a Mahayana motivation, a motivation to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. And with that motivation, and with this idea of may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, with this motivation, listen to the words from the Sanchi Molan that was actually mentioned by Lord Atisha here, where the seven limb prayer is mentioned, and that we do read sometimes. So this particular quote that I read at the beginning of teachings is from the prayer of noble conduct, the king of prayers that's being cited by Lord Atisha. And as I recite this in Tibetan and in English, think about the meaning, and then think about bringing all sentient beings here. You've decided to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. Begin to try to make your mind think the way that a bodhisattva's mind thinks, and a bodhisattva thinks, and then a Buddha thinks the best way, and can actually pull off the best way about how to help every single sentient being mature to the state of enlightenment by teaching the truth of suchness. And today we're looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's text, The Source of All My Good, specifically the section on calm abiding and special insight. And we know that calm abiding is so important. Special insight is so important. And the union of the two are the only thing that really cut the root of cyclic existence and allow one to directly perceive emptiness, which is the only thing, which is a liberating path that allows one to achieve final goals. And whether they are the lesser goals of an abiding nirvana or the highest goal of complete Buddhahood, we know that there has to be this union of calm abiding and special insight that allows one to then directly perceive phenomenon. So we'll get more into this in a bit, but just imagine that as I'm reciting this, saying that I'm going to be able to say this in the language of all beings. Imagine that you're bringing all beings here. I'm imagining I'm bringing all beings here, all hell, hungry, ghost, animal, human, demigods, and gods. Imagine that you bring them here as your guest to be able to hear the teachings that will help them learn the truth of suchness, learn the truth of reality, learn that the self-grasping ignorance is the cause, the root of all of our suffering. And that self-grasping ignorance that leads to the self-cherishing attitude causes all of the unhappiness that we have. And somehow, through practicing a path, we can get rid of this kind of negative grasping and this negative self-cherishing attitude, and be able to evolve to a complete state of Buddhahood. So imagine that you bring all sentient beings here to be able to learn and ripen with you in the same way that you need to learn and ripen, because the teachings for beings of three capacities are really applicable to any being at any level of spiritual practice that has afflictive obstructions or obstructions to obstructions to omniscience. Because these are the stages that allow one to eradicate those things which impede one from afflictive obstructions becoming arhat in an abiding nirvana, in a hero or solitary realizer state, and then the afflictive obstructions and the obstructions to omniscience, which the obstructions to omniscience keep one from being in the completely omniscient, reliable, perfect state of Buddhahood, where it's perfect wisdom, compassion, skillful means, power, and so forth, that this being possesses whilst being in a state of bliss that, a being in an abiding nirvana does not experience, because of the remaining stains that are left in the continuum, the remaining subtle self-cherishing attitude and the stains left over from the afflictive obstruction. So imagine you're bringing all sentient beings here to work on whatever they need to work on. Lai ke dan lu dan no jing ge zhe bun da dan mi ke nan dan zhe wa gun ji zhan nan ji zang ba dan jie ge du da ji ji den du. In the language of the gods, nagas, and yakshas, in the language of demons and of humans too, and however many kinds of speech there may be, I shall proclaim the Dharma in the language of all. So now we've imagined that we bring all sentient beings here as our guest, any beings who need to work in some way, develop in some way spiritually to be able to achieve their needs and all sentient beings' needs. We're bringing them here to be able to achieve the same goal we want to achieve, that goal that achieves all of our needs and all sentient beings' needs. that goal of Buddhahood. So we aspire to become Buddhas, and this mind doesn't come from nowhere. This mind that wants to become a Buddha day and night for the sake of all sentient beings is generated from various practices that we do, and calmer states of mind that we can get, and the more realistic places that we'll get to through our analytical meditation and through our wisdom arisen from hearing and analysis. We'll become more realistic and more able to have groundwork set to have such a beautiful mind actually be generated in a continuum of a being like me, who cherishes himself. I cherish myself more than I cherish others. And somehow I need to figure out how to reverse that attitude. And luckily, we have this beautiful antidote that's been set forth by all of these masters, passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni through the Nalanda Pandits, through the Tibetan masters to us. And it's been put into our laps, put into our hands in a very, very easy format. Not in a format that's so hard to articulate, because of kind masters like Lord Atisha, who was able to kind of combine these teachings and show us how to understand the way to practice them. So I want to rely tonight, not just rely, I mean, I want to show you sourcing from where, stuff that we do in class comes from. I think it's important that, when we do these meditations, that, they come from an authentic source. And you'll find out when we read about achieving calm abiding that it's so important that the teachings are from authentic lineage, and that the instructions aren't missing anything, because the subtlety starts to become very hard to discern once you get to levels of concentration that aren't shamatha but look like it. And without qualified instruction and without clear understanding of what you're looking for, it'll be quite hard to discern what's what. So it's necessary for us to have that wisdom arisen from hearing and so forth, and introspection, to really kind of understand and get a hold, to get a grip on what the practices are about. But usually we start in various ways at the beginning of class. And I just want to read a section from Kamalashila's Stages of Meditation, a text that Rinpoche, Khyentse Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, taught us, and gave instructions on how to meditate to us out of it. And I referenced it back to him for various things in my own practice. So in the beginning of class, sometimes we reference the 6 preparations, and we find that right in the beginning of the Great Treatise on the Stages of the Path to Enlightenment by Lama Tsongkhapa. We find how to, what these 6 preparations are about, cleaning the room and arranging the altar, and then, putting out offerings, and, then, getting into a seated posture and going for refuge and generating bodhicitta, and getting into a 7-point Vairocana posture, and then, the merit field, and then, making a 7-limb prayer and so forth. So we've, and then doing further supplication. So we've gone over some of those stages in class before. And then we always, get into that 7-point Vairocana posture, and I, kind of sell it as something that the masters have passed down, and that it's really, great, and so forth, that it, aligns all of the channels, and it allows the blood to flow properly and everything. But I think it's great that we can then read here, right in Kamalashila's Stages of Meditation, an incredible Indian Pandit, a holder of the Madhyamaka Svatantrika, the Svatantrika Yogacara school. And we're so fortunate that we have this Madhyamaka, in terms of writings. We can never say what a being has in terms of their final conclusion in their mindset. In terms of writing, we would put Kamalashila into the Madhyamika Yogacara Svatantrika category, along with Chandarashita. So anyway, just kind of points that are made, but an Indian Pandit, in the Profound View lineage, when we speak of the different lineages. And so Kamalashila's Stages of Meditation, we have the text in English with His Holiness the Dalai Lama's commentary. So it says, it's a little bit after where we're in section wise, but after you've found all of the kind of setup you need for meditation and so forth, it says then one should place an image of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, such as a painting, in front of him or her in some other place, and then make many offerings and praises and so forth, and then confess misdeeds and rejoice in the merit of all other beings. So we see parts, kind of a condensed explanation of what we talk about when we expand it out and look at it in terms of the 6 preparations. So then it says, then he or she should sit in the full lotus posture of Vairocana, or the half lotus posture on a comfortable cushion. So we talk about this all of the time, the modification of the posture if one has to. And then if one can't do half lotus posture, you can just sit in the chair normally. So we've talked about this so much in previous teachings, but I want to show you source material. So in Vairocana posture, Vairocana has the mudra of the right hand in the left with the thumbs touching. So that mudra is there. So there's an assumption made. You don't see the hand posture in Kamala Shila's text, and the Lama Rinpoche quotes Kamala Shila's text. But you see in the Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand and other commentaries where there are, the hand posture is put in there. So just making a note, it kind of drove me crazy a little bit. I was running into the Tibetan and seeing if there was a mistranslation, because the hands didn't seem to be mentioned, the way that I had read it in Namgyal Lajang Pabunka's Liberation, the Palm of Your Hand, or the way that the 7-point Vairocana posture was taught to me, Rinpoche by Kensur Geshe Wandak. But Vairocana has the hand in that mudra, so there's an assumption that's made. And then Marpa Lotsawa actually put the hands on the knees. So I think that, there's kind of a little bit of a leeway in there in terms of lineage, in terms of the way of the body posture. So look into it, but I'm just making notes. This is for all of you to study into and find out what you come out with as you engage in, in analysis of texts. So it says the eyes should not be too widely open or too tightly closed. Let them focus on the tip of the nose. The body should not be bent forward or backward. Keep it straight and turn the attention inwards. The shoulders should rest in their natural position, and the head should not lean back, forward, or to the side. The nose should be in line with the navel. The teeth and lips should rest in their natural state with the tongue touching the upper palate. Breathe very gently and softly without causing any noise, without laboring, and without unevenness. Inhale and exhale naturally, slowly, unnoticeably. Meditators need to pay special attention to the way they breathe. Breathing should be free of any noise or congestion. Violent breathing is harmful. Breathe gently and deeply. Inhale and exhale calmly and evenly. So when we begin with class, we get in, to the 7-point Vairocana posture, and we set up a focal object, and you'll find all of these points that are made about this focal object and errors and, antidotes to errors and so forth as we get into the stages of the points about shamatha. So I'm not going to mention them here, but there's a kind of method to all of this that comes from all of the great works. When we look at why we do what we do at the beginning of teachings. And I always like to kind of show folks where all of this comes from, so that then you can look at the original source material, such as Kamala Shila's text or as Lama Tsongkhapa's text and the Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand by Pabunka Rinpoche, and then deduce this, the same thing, and make sure that it tallies with what I'm saying, connects with what the great masters are saying. Because if it doesn't, then it's not going to lead you to the goal you're seeking. So it's important for you to, look into all of these texts. So we get into the beginning, we get into the 7-point Vairocana posture, and the focal object, one of the focal objects is breathing in and out and counting, and then the front generation form of Buddha Shakyamuni. So when we do this meditation, we generally, when I give the instruction, I say, bringing the breath all the way to the top. So it says breathing in deeply but naturally, and then exhaling very naturally, not in a forced way, but in a full way, so that you get in the habit of breathing well. Because a lot of us just have bad habits with breathing in general. And this kind of breathing allows for your mind to be even clearer. It is said, when you have this kind of, more, we would say scientifically, more oxygen, oxygenation, oxygen that's able to flow in a better way as we fill the lungs and the diaphragm completely and exhale in an even way. It helps with circulation and so forth. So you see this right in Kamalashila's text, where, and then His Holiness the Dalai Lama gives that slight commentary about how it should not be. It's really important that you don't breathe in this kind of unnatural, forced way, but the breathing should be full and all the way, but it shouldn't be forced. It should be, it says, this is Dalai Lama's commentary, I'll read it again: meditators need to pay special attention to the way they breathe. Breathing should be free of any noise or congestion, if you can, of course. If you have a cold, you can't do that, but you're trying to really make sure you kind of spit and clear out any kind of phlegm that you have before you're meditating. It's in some of the kind of personal instructions that you would kind of clear your throat and so forth, and take care of any bathroom needs. It's all right in the instructions that you need to, and that your inhalation and exhalation should be natural, slow, unnoticeable, but it should be deep, but gentle, His Holiness says. Inhale and exhale calmly and evenly. So these are all instructions that are so important, and that if we remember them, or at least know where they are, and then can go back to them, it can help us, because as we grow in our practice, hopefully we're growing, we're going to need access to more material than we thought, or that maybe we read before and it didn't apply at the time. We need to maybe go back to it in order for it to really sink in, or in order for it to be heard again in the way that now that we're ready to hear it, we can hear it, if that makes any sense. So we've now imagined that we bring all sentient beings here. We're doing it. We want to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. And we're establishing now that we're going to just calmly try to, get our minds into a better perspective by focusing on the breathing in and out and counting in a front generation form of Buddha Shakyamuni. And this kind of focal meditation will help us to learn to focus on the breath and calm down our conceptuality. And we know that we have to, according to Shantideva, it says that special insight possessing calm abiding destroys the afflictions. So from the onset, or from the beginning, seek calm abiding. So we know that we have to get our mind calmer and calmer in order for it to unite this calm abiding with special insight, and that is actually this union of calm abiding and special insight is actually brought about by the special insight generating a special pliancy that then unites with this calm abiding. But we'll get to more of those instructions later. So let's just do a little bit of practice to calm our minds down. Imagine again that you're so happy. Just rejoice before you get into this thing where you're only thinking about breathing in and out and counting in Buddha Shakyamuni. You're not thinking about the other sentient beings while you're doing this specific practice, because you've told your mind to only focus on those 4 things I just said. But before you go into it, think, oh, how wonderful it is that all sentient beings are here. I've led them all here to be able to calm their minds down. I know that a calm mind has to be created. The calmest mind of calm abiding has to be created in order for myself and all sentient beings to see emptiness, because that no matter how much wisdom you have, if you don't have calm abiding, that it mixes with, that wisdom never gets to a point where it can generate, it can see the emptiness directly, because it's always relying on a conceptuality, which doesn't have the ability, unless it's calmed down enough, to become less and less conceptual, to the point where there isn't conceptuality and one can directly experience emptiness. But that direct experience of emptiness must happen by the mind being so calm down, and so smart. And then the smartest, calmest mind becomes even brighter and smarter, by relying less on conceptuality to get at the object of the lack of inherent existence of all phenomena, to the point where that conceptuality is almost, not distinguishable. And then there is the direct perception of emptiness, the non-duality of subject and object. So anyway, so we need to make sure that we recognize the importance of the practices that we do, and rejoice in the fact that we're doing them when we're doing them, and try to share the goodness with all sentient beings. So let's do a little of this practice together, just for a moment, and then we'll move on from there. Now imagine that Buddha Shakyamuni, who's been in a fixed position, alive and three-dimensional, real Buddha Shakyamuni. But as we know from so many classes, Buddha Shakyamuni's been in a fixed position about an arm length away, the size of our thumb at eye height, when we do this meditation that we just kind of jumped into. So Buddha Shakyamuni, you now imagine, is moving around and not in a fixed position now, and is so happy that we're here tonight. Buddha Shakyamuni is omniscient, and the Buddhas spontaneously appear when they are called, because they are omniscient, and have love and compassion for all sentient beings. And unfortunately, we don't have the karma to necessarily, see these beings when they arrive, when we call them, when we think of them, we think of their excellent qualities. But if we imagine that we can see them, it brings us one step closer to bringing what is a reality into a reality. We're actually, veiled in a way, and aren't able to see things that are actually right in front of us. And we see things all the time that aren't there, such as inherent existence of objects, with everything that's in front of us. So we have to kind of rearrange things a little bit. So imagine that Buddha Shakyamuni is moving around and is looking into your eyes with so much love and compassion, and an immense bliss is generated, that you are able to kind of witness and feel the radiance of, and that bliss now that Buddha Shakyamuni is kind of helping you experience, if you will, because you're seeing this, so you're kind of feeling this happiness, this bliss that Buddha Shakyamuni has all the time, and it's now kind of looking into your eyes and directing, this being's directing his gaze in this case at you looking into your eyes, and you kind of have this kind of more aspiring faith taking place, because you see this bliss, and now suddenly you realize that Buddha Shakyamuni has been containing the entire merit field, and you see the merit field starting to fill in the space in front of you. You see His Holiness the Dalai Lama sitting on a jeweled throne supported by snow lions, Kensur Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, Geshe Lobsang Gompo, Kensur Lobsang Gyatso, Demolocha Rinpoche, Geshe Dorje Damdu, Umzula Geshe Aga, Geshe Mala Tenzin Ladrin, Jeffrey Hopkins, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Shadow Rinpoche, all these beings that you consider holy beings who've had an impact on your mind, that you consider enlightened beings, start to fill the space in front of you. Imagining their teachers, if you know their teachers' names or know their pictures, imagining all of these holy beings starting to fill the space in front of you, the beings of the extensive deeds lineage passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni to Maitreya and Asanga and Vasubandhu and Dignaga and Dharmakirti and Vimuktasena and Haribhadra and Shakyaprabha and Gunaprabha and Salimpa and Atisha, imagining these holy beings of the extensive deed lineage, and now imagining the holy beings of the profound view lineage passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni to Manjushri, and Arya Nagarjuna and Buddha Palita and Arya Deva and Shanti Deva and Chandrakirti and Baba Vega and Chandrashita and Kamala Shila, who we've mentioned tonight. So fortunate to even have heard these beings' names, let alone be able to read the content of their texts. And imagining again Lord Atisha and Lama Salimpa, imagining the beings of the lineage of blessings passed down, Vajradhara, Saraha, Matripa, Tilopa, Naropa, Lotsawa, Marpa, Milarepa, Gampopa, all these holy beings, imagining Lord Atisha is passing the Lamrim lineage to Drontompa, and imagining the three old Kadampa lineages, imagining beings of the Nyingma tradition, Padmasambhava, Sakya tradition, Satya Kunganimpo, Sakya Pandita, the Kaju tradition, the Karmapas, and so forth, imagining the Galupa Lamas, Lama Tsongkhapa, Kirtupje, Jelsupje, Basuchiji Jetson, Panchen Sanandrapa, the Jayan Sheba, Jayan Ribidorje, Gonchu Jimmy Wampo, the seventh Dalai Lama, Jetsumba, Purvajok, all of these holy beings, imagining them in the space in front of you, imagining beings of the highest Yoga Tantra, Performance Tantra, Action Tantra, the 35 Buddhas, all the protector deities in the space in front of you. Now all sentient beings are here. All of the Buddhas are here. All enlightened beings are here. The line of demarcation between sentient being and Buddha is the crossing of the 10th Bodhisattva ground, as they say. Once you've finished the 10th Bodhisattva ground, you have the resultant ground of Buddha. You're no longer a sentient being, but until you've crossed that line, you're still considered a sentient being in the sutra tradition that we're speaking of in terms of the 10 grounds and so forth. So we're really fortunate that we have access to this material, and I just want to rejoice for a moment in the fact that we come from a completely holy lineage that's unmistaken in relation to this. Now we will recite the Heart Sutra together. The content of the Heart Sutra is what that union of calm abiding and special insight is going to need it to look at. So the content in terms of the explicit content. We know the Heart Sutra implicitly contains all of the pathways needed for the Bodhisattva to achieve complete enlightenment, for the Bodhisattva to go through, to see emptiness, to inferentially understand emptiness and see emptiness more and more and more and more, directly after inferentially seeing it, to the point where that realization of emptiness coupled with the bodhicitta happens so much over and over and over again. All of even the smallest of the small obstructions to omniscience can be eventually gotten rid of through that process. So when we look at, when Shantideva says in the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life that it's an insight that's possessing calm abiding that destroys the afflictions, that calm abiding is the calm part, but the special insight, the object of observation of this very, actual special insight is the lack of inherent existence of all phenomena, because that's the only emptiness there is to see. That will actually be a path of seeing. There are direct yogic perceptions of maybe the lack of the selflessness of person in terms of substantial autonomous reality. One could have a yogic direct perception of selflessness of person, but without having the direct perception, the yogic direct perception of the lack of inherent existence of all phenomena, that doesn't qualify as seeing emptiness directly. That doesn't qualify as a liberating path. That doesn't qualify as having reached the path of seeing. So any realization of an emptiness of something that doesn't include all phenomena, and this emptiness means empty of inherent existence. So if it isn't the emptiness of inherent existence of all phenomena that one is realizing, the lack of inherent existence, then it's not the path of seeing. So we have to figure out what the object of observation is of that mind that's calmed down, that really, really smart mind that's calmed down enough. Why is it so smart? It's so smart because it's, starting to learn to think in ways that are actually right. It's starting to learn to think in ways that tally with reality, as opposed to the way it's always thought. So this is how the process occurs. So the Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge, shows us in a very, very kind of condensed way how we would meditate on a non-affirming negative, and how that non-affirming negative of absence of inherent existence relates to all phenomena, and how we normally think that everything has inherent existence, and we apprehend it that way after we think about it. But really, it appears to, from acquired wrong thinking, but it appears that way naturally to us. So we're trying to undo something that is a mirage that we haven't realized is like a mirage yet. Anyway, so the Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. I got a screen share. Hi, Lorinda. Thank you. I hope everybody's having a great night. The Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Thus have I heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha of monks and a great gathering of the Sangha of Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination. And at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajnaparamita, saw in this way, saw the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. So the Buddha goes into a concentration state. So we're talking about concentration. So the Buddha goes into a concentration state, this concentration state that is so developed, and that there are levels of clairvoyance and levels of special kind of abilities that are created out of this calm abiding. And Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment says that, this is a really special thing that the Buddha can do. But there's other clairvoyances, such as knowing past lives, knowing other people's minds, and so forth, that really are required to have in order to help sentient beings. So we see how this calm mind is not only important in terms of using it to see emptiness directly, it's important on the ripening paths as well. And we know that the Heart Sutra explicitly is about emptiness, but implicitly is also about the 5 paths. So we know that the ripening paths are also aided by this clairvoyance that's achieved by calm abiding. So you can look it up in Atisha's Lamp and then see what I'm talking about. Then through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice a profound Prajnaparamita? Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, "O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita should see in this way, seeing the five skandhas to be empty of nature. Form is emptiness, emptiness also is form, emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics. There is no birth and no cessation. There is no purity and no purity. There is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no I dhatu up to no mind dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind consciousness dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajnaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear, they transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the three times by means of Prajnaparamita fully awaken to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajnaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequal mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as truth, since there is no deception. Prajnaparamita mantra is said in this way. Teata om gate gate paragate parasangate bodhisoha. 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 Thus Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi, praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, "Good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice." When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Gala jebe nejo damba ne nguje do ju ngai do jen zhe ba ba la ma yi bu jin zi ni zong gan zhe zo la sha ze lo ga samara ja san da samara be ga samara ja san da. Aga samara tashandara samara yabe de adong gate gate paragate parasangate buddhizo ababagochi sunji gai tembidoji she lobodoji megodoji shewadoji jagi baje medobeji tanji shetinkari so ha gerin jaji joji wada medu nebe jindan dewa dan tabajo jim panson sonjoji tashi de chante da de lesho. To make a mandala offering is a request for teaching. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas High, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready, a shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sanje jadan zaji jadan la shanje badu danyi jazi daji jiji jibe zonanji jala benje sanje juba sho sanje jadan zaji jadan la shanje badu danyi jazi dagi jiji jibe zonanji jala benje sanje juba sho Sanje jadan zaji jadan la shanje badu danyi jazi dagi jiji jibe zonanji jala benje sanje juba sho. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. If you are attached to this life, you're not a spiritual practitioner. If you're attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you're attached to your own self-interest, you do not have bodhicitta. If there's grasping, you do not have the view. So hello, everyone. Again, we're looking at the source of all my good. So let's read it up. Let's read it. And then we'll go to this part where we are about the union of calm abiding and special insight. And we'll see what kind of sense we can make out of it. So I'm not going to mention the outline as we read through it and the points that are made within it. But just remember, you've got the first, you've got 4 parts to this text according to Pabunka Rinpoche. The first part deals with, finding a teacher, and then how you rely on a teacher, and what you do in terms of your relationship with the teacher, etc. What is a quality teacher? And then the next category, Pabunka Rinpoche Dorje Chang says, that we then, Lama Tsongkhapa tells us what we do once we have a teacher. And then there's a third category that deals with, making sure that we don't have any kind of obstacles that would cause, problems for us to be able to succeed in the path, making sure that we don't, have, anything that would, stop us now or stop us in the future, a kind of a prayer of supplication in the third category. And then the fourth category is a request that in all our lives we're never separated from teachers, and we're able to complete every level of every ground and every single path until we become ourselves the Vajradhara, Dorje Chang. Okay, so it's not like an other tradition where we don't have the highest potential and we have to rely on one who does forever. We just haven't realized our own highest potential the way that the Buddha did. And when we do, we will be a Buddha, just like Buddha Shakyamuni. The source of all my good. The source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to him in the proper way is the very root of the path, and grant me then to serve and follow him with all my strength and reverence. Category 1. Bless me first to realize, now category 2. Bless me first to realize the excellent life of leisure I found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day. My body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first thus to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I have died, the things I've done, the white or black, and what those deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. Grant me then ever to be careful to stop the slightest wrongs of the many wrongs we do, and try to carry out instead each and every good of the many that we may. Bless me to perceive all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I can never get enough of them. They cannot be trusted. They are the door to every pain I have. Grant me then to strive instead for the happiness of freedom. Grant that these pure thoughts may lead me to be watchful and to recall what I should be doing. Grant me to give the greatest care to make the vows of morality the essence of my practice. They are the root of Buddhist teaching. I have slipped and fallen into the sea of the suffering life. Bless me to see that every living being, every one my own mother, has fallen into. Grant me then to practice the wish for enlightenment, to take on myself the task of freeing them all. Bless me to see clearly that the wish itself is not enough, or if I'm not well trained in the 3 moralities, I cannot become a Buddha. Grant me then a fierce resolve to master the Bodhisattva vows. Grant that I may quickly gain the path where quietude and insight join together, one which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects, the other which analyzes the perfect meaning in the correct way. Grant that once I have practiced well the path shared and become a vessel that is worthy, I enter with perfect ease the way of the diamond, highest of all ways, holiest door to come inside for the fortunate and good. Bless me to know with genuine certainty that when I've entered thus, the cause that gives me both the high attainments is to keep my pledges and my vows most pure. Grant me then to always keep them, even if it costs my life. Bless me next to realize as well as I can the crucial points of both the steps, the essence of the secret ways. Grant me then to practice as the holy ones have spoken, putting all my effort in and never leaving off the practice of the 4 times highest that there is. And now we get to the third category, Pabunka Rinpoche's outline. Bless me, grant me that the spiritual friend who shows me this good road and all my true companions in this quest live long and fruitful lives. Bless and grant me that the rain of obstacles, things within me or outside me that could stop me now, stop and end forever. Now, fourth category of Pabunka Rinpoche's commentary: in all my lives, may I never live apart from my perfect lamas. May I bask in the glory of the Dharma. May I fulfill perfectly every good quality of every level and path, and reach then quickly the place where I become myself, the one who holds the diamond. Okay, here we go. So we're talking about calm abiding and special insight. We're talking about the path where quietude and insight join together. And in the sutra tradition, you first get calm abiding, and then you have this special insight, this union of calm abiding and special insight that occurs. So first you get this calm abiding, and then you develop this special insight. It's kind of in this order, but we'll get into more of those details later. So again, calm abiding. When we look at the definition of calm abiding, it's a stabilization arisen from meditation and conjoined with special pliancy. We look at the etymology of calm abiding in Tibetan, or just looking at the word calm and the word abiding. Shi is calm, ne is the abiding. It's explained as the mind's abiding on an internal object of observation upon the calming of distraction to the outside. So we look at this definition. It's going to become important. This calming of the outside, internal object, and we'll learn that this is really the important point to it. And you see in Maitreya's The Middle Beyond Extremes, how it really points that out in the 6 kind of qualities, or 6 calmnesses, if you will. And it's called something else, but it's in the text, Maitreya's Middle Beyond Extremes. And you see within there's an emphasis on that this is an internal object. So knowing that, so let's just, since we're doing calm abiding first, let's not go into special insight. Let's just talk about calm abiding tonight. And we know that the special insight is that wisdom that differentiates objects. It's this, analysis at the final, in a final way, that understands that things don't inherently exist. This is the understanding of reality and diversity that is arrived at, the ultimate conventional and ultimate truth, and being able to establish them as one entity. So anyway, that's going to be your job with the special insight part. But the calm abiding part is about just getting the mind super calm in using an internal object of some sorts. But in order to get calm abiding, so let's look at Pabunka Rinpoche's little short book that contains the 4 categories that we use. And then I'm going to jump into Pabunka Rinpoche's not short book, Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, to start to get into more of the details of the calm abiding practice and the prerequisites, kind of the preparation work that we would need for it. And, normally when we look at this preparation work, this is okay, now you're prepared to go somewhere and only focus on calm abiding. But many of us have a lot of activities we have to do and can't necessarily do that. But if we use these preparations that we're going to get into as a guideline to see, okay, is the lifestyle we're living in, the environment we're living in, the people who are around us, is it conducive to us to, getting calm abiding? We once again have something as a frame of reference to see, if how we're living our life is going to be helpful, and how we maybe could modify our life to make it more helpful. So Pabunka Rinpoche says, it says, grant that I may quickly gain the path where quietude and insight join together. Okay, so there's a union. There's 2 separate things that join together, calm abiding and special insight. One which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects, calm abiding. The other which analyzes the perfect meaning in the correct way, special insight. So the verse here speaks of objects which are wrong. This should be understood as referring to objects which are mistaken in a particular sense, One example would be trying to develop meditative concentration by fixing the mind on a short stick of wood. As some non-Buddhists advocate, we must seek to quiet the mind, that is, stop the mind from being distracted to these types of wrong external objects, objects of sense consciousness. We're working with our mental consciousness. We're not trying to stare at something and get really able to like be mesmerized and hypnotized by a focal object we're staring at. We're trying to get our mind to the most calm state that it possibly can get to. So the only way that we can do that is by training internally. So we have to, the wrong here, mind being distracted to wrong objects. Here in this case, Pabunka Rinpoche says that, these are external objects. But then it goes on and says there are Tibetan schools of the past too, of which who have taught that meditative quietude consisted of not thinking about anything at all, just keeping the mind in some dark state of dullness. The high state of perfect insight, then, they explain as moving in the stupor to a realization of the pure and simple emptiness of the deceptive nature of the mind, except they describe this emptiness as what you come to when you analyze whether or not what we call the mind consists of any shape or color, and then fail to find that it's any such thing. But none of these ideas is correct. Rather, we must follow texts such as the briefer and more expanded explanations of the steps to the path composed by the Lord himself, where he presents the instructions given to the great regent loving one in his own work entitled Separating the Middle and the Extremes. So there's a mention of Maitreya's work, the middle from extremes. And these treatises describe how one progresses in steps by eliminating the 5 problems to meditation, taking 8 corrective actions, and achieving the 9 meditative states, complete with their 4 different modes and the 6 powers and so forth. So it says one thus attains a kind of bliss, a total pliancy of body and mind, which comes from staying in a one-pointed meditation on one virtuous object one chooses. This then leads to what we call meditative quietude, calm abiding. Okay, so these, you will eventually have this bliss of pliancy of body and mind, a bliss that occurs, and it's from this single pointed concentration on a virtuous object. Okay, so before we get into how you then meditate, it says that, there are various preparations or prerequisite to achieving this calm abiding mind. So we're not, when we're learning calm abiding, we're trying to learn how to really, really get it, not get some of it and use it as a tool to be calmer, happier people for this life. We're trying to take this the whole way so that we can use this as a tool to be liberated from suffering forever, and to have bliss and have reliability forever, have omniscience forever, have perfect wisdom, love, concentration, skillful means, power, etc. forever. So we're not trying to kind of half do this. So we need to learn how we would really make this calm mind occur. We may think, oh, I think I have calm abiding. And we have to see, by looking at the texts to say, okay, do you? And then if you don't, then maybe some of the things that in terms of the prerequisites are missing. Okay, so we look at these prerequisites, and in Pabunka Rinpoche's Liberation, the Palm of Your Hand, it says, we looked at Kamala Shila's stages of meditation last week, and it says the prerequisites necessary. It says initially the yogi should seek the prerequisites that can assist him or her in actualizing calm abiding meditation and special insight quickly and easily. The prerequisites necessary for the development of calm abiding meditation are to live in a conducive environment, to limit your desires, and practice contentment, not being involved in too many activities, maintaining pure moral ethics, and fully eliminating attachment and all other kinds of conceptual thoughts. A conducive environment should be known by these 5 characteristics: providing easy access to food and clothes, being free of evil beings and enemies, being free from disease, containing good friends who maintain moral ethics and who share similar views, and being visited by few people in the daytime and with little noise at night. Limiting your desires refers to not being excessively attached to too many or good clothes, such as religious robes and so forth. The practice of contentment means always being satisfied with any little thing, like inferior religious robes and so forth. Not being involved in many activities refers to giving up ordinary activities like business, avoiding too much a close association with householders and monks, and totally abandoning the practice of medicine and astrology. So we'll learn later that there's a reason for that these are just activities that could distract you from calm abiding and special insight. You're only trying to get calm abiding, and special insight. These things become distractions to that single pointed kind of focal goal, focused for goal. So we find the 6 requisites: staying in a favorable place, having few wants. This is Pabunka Rinpoche's liberation in the palm of your hand now. Being satisfied with what one has. 3, avoiding the disturbance caused by being involved in many activities. 4, number 5, having a pure moral practice. And number 6, overcoming thoughts about sense objects and other things. Okay. So what I love about this text is that there's so much oral tradition in here, things that are just practical advice on how you do practice. So staying in a favorable place, what does this mean? We've been, looking at so many different texts. It's beautiful, and we can see concordance in all of these texts. We've been looking at Pabunka Rinpoche's short text on the commentary on the source of all my good. We've been looking at Kamala Shila's stages of meditation. We mentioned Maitreya's middle beyond extremes. And now we have a quote from Maitreya's ornament to the Mahayana Sutras. So the place where a practitioner pursues calm abiding should have the 5 qualities that are mentioned in the verse from the ornament to the Mahayana Sutras, and mentioned in Kamala Shila's stages of meditation. So we're looking at the Nalanda Pandits right now, and we're looking at the different and then the Nalanda Pandits such as Asanga, and then who received these beautiful teachings from Maitreya in Tashita. So it's incredible that we have access to all of these teachings and that they're all so concordant. So the place where a wise person practices should allow, this is from the ornament to Mahayana Sutras, the Mahayana Sutra Alankara, the Dodejen. The place where a wise person practices should allow material needs to be easily gained, be a safe area and a wholesome location, have good companions present, and be conducive to meditation. So it gets into, it says, if a practitioner cannot acquire material needs, so it says, should allow material needs to be easily granted. So it says, Pabunka says, if a practitioner cannot acquire material needs easily and do so in a way that conforms to the principles of Dharma, he or she will have to enter the town to find a means of support. Moreover, provisions acquired in a way that conform to the principles of Dharma means that they must be acquired properly. Although practitioner may obtain food, so it says you could obtain it easily. Maybe you could obtain it easily through wrong livelihood, or receive it through committing evil deeds. But it says that the great teachers in Lama describe this as what has been wrongly acquired. So it doesn't, therefore we must find a place in which provisions are acquired properly, not wrongly acquired, not stolen, not cheated. So we shouldn't say, oh, well, I can, be in this retreat and I don't have to worry about how I would get food because I can go steal it from the townspeople, or I can go to the field and steal the farmers' food. They have a lot. So we have to really be mindful that, we have, our material needs, taken care of, the things that we're going to need taken care of, and that we have them taken care of in an honest way. And because all of these things we know that ethical discipline is the foundation for being able to get calm abiding. So we see the refinement of ways of thinking here in terms of, okay, what is a place that would allow material needs to be easily gotten. Well, that doesn't mean that it's somewhere you could steal from a farmer's field. They have to be easily gotten, and we should be looking at it from an ethical perspective always. The area where we stay should be a safe area, and if possible, a site that has been blessed, that was blessed by having been visited in the past by holy beings. Such a place has the power to bestow a blessing upon those who meditate there, especially if they're novice practitioners. So beginners are especially kind of influenced in some way by holy places. Knowing their holy places, this influence, and we can even see, when we walk into, certain pilgrimage sites that have a different feeling about them, or even, when we walk into a Buddhist center, when we walk in the Chenrezig Center, you see all of the statues and you see everything set up that, and because Rinpoche was there, it creates a special feeling that wasn't there when the room was empty. Because there's a holy presence there that's not really describable. Maybe it's just a projected, imputed from our side, but it works in terms of the magnification of our abilities. So we have to then look at this logically and see why this could be, or is this true? And we see so many different stories of beings who were able to leave imprints in their minds of incredible virtue, just because of doing something in relation to holy objects that they really didn't even have that much intention to do anything in relation to. So if you have intention to do something in relation to a holy object, then it really creates more power, because you know that you're trying to achieve that destruction of the afflictions that all of this is going for. So it says, if you can't find such a location, you should at least avoid a place inhabited by people who've abandoned spiritual commitments. So you shouldn't, go somewhere where people just say nihilists and, I give up and I just, not going to engage in virtuous activities anymore. Or areas to avoid should include those where an act of dissension in the Sangha was committed, dividing of the Sangha. That's a pretty large act to do. That doesn't mean like, two Buddhist centers suddenly occurred. This really is an extreme act of dividing. Sangha refers to Arya beings, but then there's also the nominal Sangha. And so here, this could be dividing, a group, there's 10 monks together, and then you somehow convince them that they're no longer compatible, emotionally compatible in some way. So you divide them and make, them not as compatible as they were. And you make them two groups that, don't really see each other as compatible anymore because you've divided them. So this is dividing the Sangha, and you shouldn't go somewhere where that kind of act has been committed, or where dangerous animals, robbers, or wrathful spirits live. If we disregard this instruction out of boldness and choose to stay in any inauspicious area anywhere, it's very likely that we'll encounter some form of external harm. And then Pabunka Rinpoche goes on to talk about some harm that was caused in a place by, a spirit. And so forth. So you really have to just make sure it's a good place. So I'm not going to get into that. A wholesome location is a place that does not bring on either cold or feverish illness, and one where the earth and water elements are beneficial to our health. So here we're saying, okay, so now I should be able to have my material all my needs kind of cared for. But here it should be safe and wholesome in terms of the water shouldn't be poisonous. I should have good potable water and so forth. It's just a lot of obvious instructions here. But a lot of people think, oh, I'm a spiritual practitioner, I should just go deprive myself and live, and it doesn't matter where I am. And this text is saying no. This text is saying that you really have to have resources and be in a safe place to be able to not be distracted. So it says that it should be where the water and earth are beneficial to our health. Well, our companion should be a person who hold views and engage in conduct similar to our own. So if you're trying to get calm abiding, you shouldn't be staying with someone who is, completely, thinking in a different way that's going to distract you, that isn't really trying to work towards that goal, who could influence you from, off of an internal object to an external object. There is a line that says we should stay with a companion who is like a second shadow. This doesn't mean that we should avoid having more than two companions or that we should remain completely alone. Rather, it means that we should have a good rapport with those who accompany us when we're trying to meditate. So that it should be like a shadowing. So, right? So someone who's really, if it's a shadow, it's us. So someone who's shadowing us is, and we look in terms of shadowing in a job, the shadowing is taking place so that person knows how to do exactly what you do. So this shadow is someone who's really trying to do exactly what you're trying to do. These are the kind of companions you should surround yourself with, according to the text. And if you surround yourself with these kind of companions, then you're more likely to be able to have your mind evolve. So this is what it says. And it says that when you're really in the beginning stages, you should not stay alone. And you should stay with a larger number of people, provided that everybody has good principles in Dharma practice. So it's saying that, initially, maybe two novices could get kooky, could kind of lose it. People who are just beginners, two wet noodles. What is it? Can't hold themselves up, and two sick puppies don't make a dog, something like this. Those kind of funny sayings apply, I think, here as well, that we have to be careful with the influence of those around us and so forth. So this is all the point. It says whatever number of companions we should have, we should rely on individuals who feel the weight of a disapproving glance rather than those who behave in a carefree and unrestrained manner. I love Pabunka Rinpoche's writing. Someone who would, be ashamed of their behavior just because someone glanced at them and they knew they were doing wrong, not someone who could care less what anyone sees. So just a disapproving glance would, the kind of person you want to be with, if there was just something slightly they were doing wrong, just a disapproving glance would just ruin them, because they're trying so hard to be restrained and care, as opposed to being carefree and unrestrained. And it says that the scriptures state that sound is a thorn to meditative concentration. And a lot of times people will say, oh, let's meditate, turn on a bubbling brook. Let's go somewhere, next to a waterfall. Maybe it can calm you down. But these are all obstacles to meditation. And it says, it talks about waterfalls and trickles being the same as dogs howling at night in some texts. So it's kind of funny how we kind of impute these things. Oh, this is where I could really get calm abiding. And the actual running water is just as bad as a barking dog. In terms of pulling our mind to an external object. Think about it. We're trying to drag our minds inward, pull our minds inward, and anything that's going to change what's going on there needs to not be occurring. It's so obvious in these instructions, but sometimes we don't think about it really. We think, oh, well, I can get, just kind of muscle my way through it, and I should be able to. I know a lot of times, you hear, I should be able to, oh, there's sirens outside. And we used to say this at the center. Well, we shouldn't be distracted by these sirens, and we should be able to just listen to Rinpoche teach. And sure, in a perfect world, this is when we were on Main Street, and it was so loud at times when we were doing teachings with sirens. There's a fire station was right across the street. And it's kind of funny. And Rinpoche said that, that was 20 something years ago. At the end of my life, I want to retire in a quiet place, and Katie mentioned that. a few years back that Rinpoche said that, and she was so happy that he got to come to that quiet retreat place. And he mentioned that to us in the initial days over there, and it was so noisy. And now I'm seeing, okay, this is why he wanted to be in a quiet place, or why he would teach we need to go to a quiet place later, when we need to go, when we're ready, when we could actually do such a thing. We're going to need a quiet place. So it's pretty cool. It says sound is a thorn to meditative concentration. We'll go 5 more minutes, and then I'll do the dedications and so forth. Therefore, we should stay in a place that is free of human sounds during the daytime and the sounds of dog or water and the like at night. I love this, like a dog barking and your beautiful trickling stream are both, compared to be the same in terms of an obstacle to your meditation. Put on some very, very delicate music. Put on a song of a dog barking. Both are equally wrong because they bring your mind outward to an external object. Your ear consciousness apprehends the sound. And then your mental consciousness does some stuff with it. Fine. But think about the process. Your ear consciousness takes in the sound, then your mental consciousness can work with it. But the sense is just directly perceiving the sound only. And it's not what your mental consciousness is able to do. So it's now colliding with what you're trying to do. The sound that now your ear's picking up is colliding with an internal object because now your mind's gone out. So it makes sense. And it says, my own guru declared, and this is Pabunka Rinpoche speaking, that my own guru declared that the quality of being conducive to meditation also means for the practitioner to be well acquainted with all aspects of his practice and to have eliminated all doubt about what he or she is going to meditate on. So we see the wisdom arisen from hearing, the wisdom arisen from analysis, and then the wisdom arisen from meditation. You have to have this and have eliminated doubts. And the way you eliminate doubt is through going through first having a wrong or a deceptive consciousness, then doubt, and then, correct assumption maybe, and then, moving into an inference. And then that inference is the only way that you can completely know you'll never have that doubt, because it's incontrovertible once it relies on a correct sign, and it sets you up to directly experience things. This is accomplished through the activities of listening and contemplation, as I just mentioned. I should have just kept reading. This instruction also means that the practitioner has already received whatever initiation, instructions, clarifying examples, and so on that are needed. The main point is that he or she should be knowledgeable in all aspects of his or her practice. So if you're going into this retreat, to try to get calm abiding, before you've done it, a prerequisite here, it's like a prerequisite of the preparation almost, is that you have this kind of wisdom arisen from hearing and analysis, and that you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing when you're sitting down on that cushion and saying, okay, 4 times a day, practice of the 4 times or 6 times, however you're doing it. I'm only going to try to get, this calm abiding mind by working on these 9 stages. You don't know what they are and what the faults are and what the powers are and et cetera, et cetera. There'll be no way for you to do it. So you have to really study a lot to know how to do the practical application. It says nowadays we can see that many practitioners mainly concern themselves with arranging for their material needs. Later, when they realize that they do not know how to do the actual meditation practice well, they become anxious and feel they must ask a lama to perform a divination. We should avoid this type of behavior and make sure that we're well prepared and ready to do our Dharma practice. So everyone gets all the needs, the material needs together, gets everything there, doesn't really arrange the mental needs needed, the wisdom arisen from hearing and analysis, and then gets there and is just lost. Doesn't have the prerequisites of learning that are there, gets into a meditation, seems lost, says, oh, please do a mo. What should I do? What would be most beneficial? Should I meditate on, this deity? Should I do that deity? Should I do some mantras? And it's just all a result of not having studied, being lost, not being self-sufficient. Once you study enough Dharma, you can become self-sufficient. Everyone can leave and you can be self-sufficient to some degree. Obviously, we always need to keep studying and keep learning, but you have to ask yourself, if everything just disappeared and there were no more Dharma books that you could, get off of your shelf and have your hands on, this would be a terrible thing to have happen. If we could just suddenly, all of it just had to stop, all of our studies stopped. Would you be self-sufficient enough to have confidence, to have material in your mind to work with day and night, if that was what you could do? Because that would say that was all you could do. There were no more TVs, there was nothing else to do but Dharma. Would you be able to be self-sufficient? We have to ask ourselves this. And the only way you can become self-sufficient is to study enough to be able to know these stages, and to be able to know when you sit down on your cushion what the heck you're doing, why you're doing it, and how, when it goes wrong, to fix it. Okay, if you're attached to this life, you're not a spiritual practitioner. If you're attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you're attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. If there's grasping, you do not have the view. So again, becoming knowledgeable in all aspects of practice is so important. And that's great. We actually finished the section on staying in a favorable place. And next week we'll get into having few wants. Maybe we'll get through all of them, maybe we won't. But I think that these are all questions we can ask ourselves about our own place and about our own companions, and about, whether or not we're being realistic within our practice, and whether or not we're saying, oh, well, if I'm just going to, gather up all of these needs, material needs and money, and I'll just study a tiny bit. And then later on, I'm just going to go into retreat. But if you don't gather up all of the things in those 20 years of knowledge, and then you have all of the money to go into retreat, then you won't have anything to do. And maybe in that 20-year time span, you'll die and you'll never get to your retreat. So this is what we have to look at. We have to just keep plugging away at this, but also trying to get our minds more and more refined. The only way we refine our mind is to know how to refine it. Okay. Prayer for the flourishing of Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings. We're so fortunate to have these teachings, right? I mean, wow. I mean, we have so many resources here. Like, oh no, well, who said that? Who said that's how you get calm abiding? Well, let me tell you. And it's really beautiful that we have these resources and we aren't just having to kind of guess, right? Prayer for the flourishing of Jitsongkhapa's teaching. Though he's the father, producer of all conquerors, as a conqueror's son, he produced the thought of upholding the conqueror's Dharma in infinite worlds. Through this truth, may the conqueror Lozang's teaching flourish. When in the presence of Buddha Indraketa, he made his vow. The conqueror and his offspring praised his powerful courage. Through this truth, may the conqueror Lozang's teachings flourish. That the lineage of pure view and conduct might spread, he offered a white crystal rosary to the sage, who gave him a conch and prophesied. Through this truth, may the conqueror Lozang's teachings flourish. His pure view, free of eternity or destruction, his pure meditation, cleansed of dark fading and fog. His pure conduct, practiced according to the conqueror's orders, may the conqueror Lozang's teachings flourish. Learned since he extensively sought out learning, reverent, rightly applying it to himself, good, dedicating all for beings and doctrine, may the conqueror Lozang's teachings flourish. Through being sure that all scriptures, definitive and interpretive, were without contradiction, advice for one person's practice, he stopped all misconduct. May the conqueror Lozang's teachings flourish. Listening to the explanations of the three Pitakas, realized teachings, practicing the three highest higher trainings, his skilled and accomplished life story is amazing. May the conqueror Lozang's teachings flourish. Outwardly calmed and subdued by the hearer's conduct, inwardly trusting in the two sages' practice, allied without clash the good paths of Sutra and Tantra, may the conqueror Lozang's teachings flourish. Combining voidness explained as the causal vehicle with great bliss achieved by method, the effect vehicle, hard essence of 80,000 Dharma bundles, may the conqueror Lozang's teachings flourish. By the power of the ocean of oath-bound doctrine protectors like the main guardians of the three beings past, quick-acting Lord Vaisharana Karmayana, may the conqueror Lozang's teachings flourish. In short, by the lasting of glorious gurus' lives, by the earth being full of good, learned, and reverent holders of the teaching, and by the increase of the power of its patrons, may the conqueror Lozang's teachings flourish. Again, I just want to reiterate how fortunate we are that we're talking tonight about Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life, Kamalashila's Stages of Meditation, Maitreya's ornament for the Mahayana Sutras, Maitreya's the middle beyond extremes. Last week, and we've been piggybacking on a lot of Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, looking at Meditation on Emptiness by Jeffrey Hopkins, looking at Pabunka Rinpoche's short commentary on the source of all my good, looking at the Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand by Pabunka Rinpoche. So we're really fortunate to have all of these resources to guide us through the various stages of meditation and the sutras that support all of this material that we talk about. And you find in Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, all of the sutra sources, and in Kamalashila's stage of the meditation, when we look at the definition of calm abiding and special insight, we find sutra quotes right there in terms of their definition. So we know we aren't being led in the wrong way. Very, very important. Concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular, for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Any mistakes I've made, may they be purified by the mantra of Vajrasattva, and may all of our body, speech, and mind be purified. My body, speech, and mind, all sentient beings, body, speech, and mind through the power of this mantra. And visualize what we normally say. Om benza sato samaya manabalaya benza sato zeno bajita dida me bava sutagaya me bava subogaya me bava anuragya me bava zavasiti me braja zavakam sujame me kidam chiyam kurum ha ho bhagavan savatata kata benza me muka benza bava maha samaya sapa om ve. May we always be protected by Paul the Lama. Jorama 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 Jikala Jamorama Jidaja Jorang Yong. 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 Jorama 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 Jikala Jamorama Jidaja Jorang. And also Atisha's lamp for the path to enlightenment, where we talked about the calm abiding, producing the clairvoyance needed, and the Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge, while we talked about the Buddha going to the state of samadhi. So really, this material is like this. And when we see it's all like this, and we can understand and articulate it like this, because of lamas like Kensur Geshe Wandak, it just brings such joy, I know, to my heart. Any obstacles that you have to meeting with the Dharma, may they be removed by this mantra of Drapa Sunjay, the three wrathful protectors. Om Vajrapani Hare Griva Garuda Om Ve. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. Whatever dedication is praised as supreme by the conquerors who traverse the three times. I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. And now we have a prayer of supplication to Namgyal Kensur Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, written by me on March 6th of 2023, 1 year after his passing. If I can find it. Oh, I think it's over here. A complex yogi poses as a simple monk. Homage to Kensur Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, our precious spiritual friend who is inseparable from Aryatara. I fully prostrate, covering as many atoms of the earth as possible to your pure body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. I offer to you drinking water, bathing water, flowers, incense, candles, scented water, food, and music. Purified by Om Ahom, Om Ahom, Om Ahom. The rarity of having 1 million wish-fulfilling gems is a common occurrence compared to meeting with a holy teacher like you, who placed the complete path to Buddhahood in our childlike hands. Just like Atisha, who came to Tibet with a lamp to dispel the darkness of ignorance, you, kind abbot, arrived in the West with a lineage purer than a diamond and begged us never to be satisfied with partial instructions. And look at us go. The teachings of the extensive deeds and profound view lineages flowed from your lips like nectar for our ears that elucidated the teachings for beings of three capacities. Now that sound has stopped. All composite things are impermanent. You told us that all of your teachers passed away and understood this sadness, entreating us to continue our studies. The Buddha does not wash away the negativities of beings, nor does he remove their miseries by his hands. His spiritual realizations are not transferred to them. It is by teaching the truth of suchness that beings are liberated. We are not prepared to take this difficult journey to the highest goodness of Buddhahood without your continued guidance. The sadness in our hearts would be too overwhelming. May you swiftly return to this world and take care of us in all our lives, wherever we may be, never leaving our hearts and crowns. May all sentient beings perfectly realize renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view of emptiness so they know who you really are. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope that you can apply these teachings to your life this week. And I look forward to, I guess it's the end of the week, and we'll into the weekend. I hope you can apply these teachings. And we'll see you on Sunday, where we talk about Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment. Thank you all for your patient listening. Really appreciate all of you so much.